if we're the ones that are generating these negative emotions, that is comforting to know. Because if I'm creating it, I can stop it. We just haven't been taught how. And what I teach is how, and what you teach is how. And so the 8 negative emotions, the first is this feeling that I'm not enough. It's the foundational negative emotion of all suffering and trauma. All of us have to deal with it. It's called shame. And it says, I'm unlovable. I'm not enough. There's something wrong with me. We get it because when we were a child, we had a parent or an adult or a sibling or somebody that we looked up to that said, that was stupid, or you shouldn't have done that, or you're not enough. Or they just didn't use those words, just with their actions. They turned their back on us when we didn't do things they didn't like. And so as a child, we started to believe, I'm not enough. We don't want to keep believing that because it's really destructive. We've just been repeating to ourselves over and over again, I'm not enough, I'm unlovable, there's something wrong with me. We start to repeat over and over again, I'm completely lovable. I'm more than enough. There's so much right with me. And with affirmations and positive statements and then evidence about why we're enough and starting to collect all this evidence about how great we are, we can counteract it.
Hey, guys, it is Alison. I am the host of your show, Alison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Hey, guys, how are you today? It is Alison from Alison Answers, and I have a cool guest on today, primarily speaking about happiness. So Matt O'Neill is a happiness expert, and I am thrilled to have him on because I do believe that happiness is a choice. And for me, many, many days, I have to do the actual challenge of reframing my thinking, reframing my feelings, and reframing the way I attach meaning to my environment in order to maintain the state of being that's important to me. So I'm just going to read a little bit about Matt so you can get a good sense of who this guy is. I'm really looking forward to having a really good conversation with Matt. Matt O'Neill teaches us that happiness is a choice. He's a happiness expert. Even when life gets tough, his work has positively impacted the lives of over 100,000 people worldwide. As a recognized leader in happiness education, Matt teaches audiences how to live a life of conscious happiness. His work includes The Good Mood Revolution, book and podcast, where he explains the importance of conquering negative thought patterns while embracing habits that lead to a happier life. Matt's teaching isn't just theory, it's attested in the real world too. Matt and his wife have 4 young children. I'm not sure if they're still young, and they run 2 successful businesses with $8 million in revenue and over 80 employees. Living by the happiness principles he teaches, his company is recognized as the #1 company to work for in South Carolina. I love that. Matt's unique approach to choosing good moods, even in the face of adversity, resonates deeply with each of us. I've invited Matt to share his journey with us and to give us practical strategies and like a way to actually transform our life, our businesses, and achieve success in the face of adversity or circumstances that would prove to make us think we have to feel unhappy. So I'm really, without any further ado, I'm really just looking forward to having him on and learning from him. Hey, guys, how are you today? It is Alison from Alison Answers and Lager Counseling Services. As I mentioned before, I have Matt, and Matt O'Neill is a happiness expert. And I just want to, first of all, say that I know that every single time I have a guest on this show, that they are here for a reason, that there is a divine purpose. And I knew that when Matt was coming on as a happiness expert, because I've been asking my higher power, God, to kind of bring me to the next level of choosing happiness daily and being committed to my state of being. And it just so happens that Matthew is
Mhm.
here today. So I just want to welcome you and thank you so much for being such a light on this earth for the people that you
Aw.
serve. Thank you. And
Alison,
welcome.
you're a light on this earth. You just exude joy and positivity like a ray of sunshine.
Oh, thank you. So I normally don't do this because like sometimes there's questions to ask, but I thought that some of these questions were so good. Like, let me just back for a second. How did you become a happiness expert? Was it from practicing yourself or having to go through struggles to get there?
Yes. So
Yes.
I actually, I
Yeah.
actually fully believe I was born with that as a mission. And I was 5 years old looking in the mirror at myself, and I thought, I'm going to teach people how to feel good. And that was a weird thought to have at 5. And then in my teens, when I was this angry teen and I had all these issues, I thought, I'm going to teach people how everything works. And I'm going to explain how God works and how everything comes together ultimately to make us feel our best. And I'm like, that is so weird. I know nothing about that. That is really an odd thought. And then in my 20s, it would show up again. And then in my 30s, it showed up. And I finally said, all right, well, let's do it. And
Yeah.
so I started the Good Mood Revolution podcast. And at that point, I had been studying from the world's top experts, mentors, coaches, conferences, doing everything in that you possibly could to become the expert on how everything works. And it had been 2 decades. And I started the podcast and interviewed 140 of the top experts. And the book, The Good Mood Revolution, took me 4 years to write, to talk about how to progress from the lowest negative moods, which there's only 8 of them, thankfully, but to get out of those 8 negative moods and then to experience the highest, most positive moods. So I, I only teach it because I've been in the depths of negativity and struggle, and I got out. And it's like throwing the rope and helping other people get out too. It's my mission.
I got to tell you something, Matt. We are so aligned because I have known since I'm a little girl that my mission is to show people the way out. And,
Mhm.
because when we're faced with all these difficulties, we can ask why, how come this is happening? But there's always a greater purpose. So I picture myself like, in that dark land where somebody is, like I picture that I put a stake in the ground. I see like a cross and I hammer it in. I'm like, I own this land now. I can go in there with you and we can sit and then we can go out together.
Let's
You
get out of
know?
here.
Yeah, let's get
Yeah.
out of here.
I can hang out there. It's
Mhm.
not it's not fun.
Yeah.
But and I had a meditation teacher named Mooney Natarajan. Wonderful, lovely man. If and you can meditate with Mooney. He'll do Zoom meditations. He's so nice.
Good.
But he used to say each of these negative emotions was an island. Like there's an island of anger. And he said, it's fine to go visit the island, but don't build your high rise apartment and live there.
Love it. Love
And
it.
so we don't want to go and live in that dark land. We can go there, we can visit it, and then we can take people out with us and back into the light because there's such better islands to live on than the island of anger.
Yes. Let me ask you something. Because when you said those 8 stages or those 8 emotions, would you mind sharing that with us? Or is this like
Yeah.
too much insight? Like,
No, no, I'll
yeah,
share
I
everything. I mean,
love it.
my goal is to be of service to the person listening. And
Yes.
it is such a relief to know that our negative emotions are first of all generated by us, within us, and from us. If we're the ones that are generating these negative emotions, we're creating them. No one else is creating them. There's no one else inside of us that's creating our bad feelings or our discomfort or our suffering. We are creating it. That is comforting to know, because if I'm creating it, I can stop it. We just haven't been taught how. And what I teach is how, and what you teach is how. And so the 8 negative emotions, the first is this feeling that I'm not enough. It's the foundational negative emotion of all suffering and trauma. And all of us have to deal with it. It's called shame. And it says, I'm unlovable. I'm not enough. There's something wrong with me. We get it because when we were a child, we had a parent or an adult or a sibling or somebody that we looked up to that said, that was stupid, or you shouldn't have done that, or you're not enough, or you're unlovable. Or they just didn't use those words, just with their actions. They turned their back on us when we didn't do things they didn't like. And so as a child, we started to believe, I'm not enough. We don't want to keep believing that because it's really destructive. So that's the first of the negative emotions. And it's really simple to overcome. We've just been repeating to ourselves over and over again, I'm not enough, I'm unlovable, there's something wrong with me. We start to repeat over and over again, I'm completely lovable, I'm more than enough, there's so much right with me. And with affirmations and positive statements and then evidence about why we're enough and starting to collect all this evidence about how great we are, we can counteract it. That little thought will always be there, but I want to be louder with the thoughts that I'm so amazing. It's really easy to do with conscious effort. It's why my book is called The Path to Conscious Happiness, because we need to be conscious about it.
Yes. So I don't want to interrupt your eight things, and I think I'm going to want to talk about every one.
Let's talk about them. Let's talk about them.
All right. Yeah, so that one right there, I think that I've always had that forever since I'm like very young. And I think the way that I obtained it, and it's interesting because you said turn your back, parents turning their back on us, maybe because of our behavior. But I think one of the ways that I obtained this core shame, which I think people do, and I'm sure you agree, that it's from just neglect, not being seen, or being like the parentified child who ends up now, like when you don't really feel like you have a parent that you're proud of, or that you feel like there's just something wrong with you, right? So that's how I've always like, it's like always there. Yeah.
Why didn't God give me a dad who loved me?
Yes, exactly.
That was my experience.
Yes.
And I'm like, this isn't fair. Why do I have a dad that abandoned me, that didn't want anything to do with me? There's something wrong with me. God didn't think I deserved a dad that was there to throw a ball with me and tell me that I could be a man and that teach me the ways of being an adult. So there has to be something wrong with me if that's what I was given. And that's how it developed in me.
Yes.
And it wasn't true. What it is that, and so I have different spiritual beliefs than many people. However, I believe that we choose our parents.
I do too. Mm-hmm.
And I chose that situation with an emotionally abusive and then neglecting father to experience the darkness so that I could really know what it's like to live there in that land and then get out and teach people how to get out.
Yes. So
it just supports our mission.
Yes. I feel like every single level that you talk about, I'm going to want to talk about.
Well, let's do it. Okay. So the second one is so prevalent in society. We really see it with like the election that we just went through. It's judgment.
Oof, yeah.
And judgment comes from the root emotion of guilt. So as we are judging others and you shouldn't do that and they shouldn't behave that way and they're wrong and I'm right, all of that thought of this is really projecting our own guilt that I'm not doing the right things. So we point it outwards and we say they're not doing the right things. But we don't really know. We don't know who's right and who's wrong. We're not the ultimate judge. I'm not God. I can't know all the different intricacies of everything. So judgment is going to keep us in a negative state. And people say everybody judges. Well, we don't have to. So as we notice our mind judging, we'll notice the mind want to judge. I don't have to believe those thoughts. Mm-hmm. So as somebody wants to get into this argument that, oh, that person's a dirty, rotten scoundrel, I can say, as my mind wants to agree with them, or as my mind might want to say that, I can consciously say, I don't know that to be true.
Do you think that, and this is what I've always considered, that judgment means that I feel threatened or there's some fear there? But I love that you connected it to guilt, because I think that's
guilt projected out.
Is like this just weird sense, like, somehow I'm in trouble, like I've done something wrong.
Yeah, that's guilt. Guilt is I did something. So again, all this comes from childhood. I did something wrong. My parents punished me. So when I was a child, my brother said, if you could hit this little marble with this baseball bat, I'll give you $1. And I'm like, I could do that. And I was just a 5-year-old kid. I threw the marble up in the air and crushed it with this baseball bat, and it hit it right into the television. And it went like 2 inches deep into the television. And I was like, that's really like, I can't believe I did that. It's amazing to hit a marble with a baseball bat as a 5-year-old. And my brother was like, oh, and then of course my parents came and I got into all this trouble and I was bad and I was punished and I was banished to my room for days. And so punishment is this form of guilt. As we grow up, we become the parent and we punish ourselves. And as we do things wrong, we say, that was stupid and I'm stupid. And it's all this guilt. Well, then we look at other people and we say, you're stupid and what you did was stupid. And it's just our own self-punishing thoughts projected onto other people. It's just really, really negative. So yes, people make mistakes. Mistakes have consequences. The consequences are enough. We don't need to pile it on with punishment.
No, I'll tell you, that story really, really hits me. I have 4 kids. I know you have 4 kids.
Mhm.
And how it hits me is I used to say to my children, I remember something would crash in my house, and I'd be like, people are more important than things. And I would just
Yes.
say it as like a mantra, even to calm me down. People are more important than things. And they're used to that. That's like in their head. But I can just picture that for a little kid. It's like you were at your highest heights at 5. Like you just did this incredible thing. Even
Right.
smashing the TV is incredible.
Oh yeah. As a 5-year-old to have the strength to do that,
Yes.
it was
You know,
crazy.
you know what I think, Matt, also? It's that it's, and I'm going all into my stuff right now. This is all me. So it's like, I just use myself to help other people. But like, I feel like in that situation, that little boy, 5 years old, is completely misunderstood. Completely. And like the people, like, the 4 agreements, like everyone's jumped to conclusions, you're bad. That's what I always like hear with the little kids at Logger Counseling Services. I'm like, they're just being children. This is not oppositional defiant disorder. Like, I don't even believe in that diagnosis. But so I feel like that's almost like, to me, one of my highest values with just any relationship is to be understood and to be understanding, to understand what is really happening with them, not my perspective on it. I feel like, yeah.
Yeah, and the punishment is their own guilt, the parents' own guilt, then projected onto the children. So I just had this experience with my daughter. I'm changing the way I eat, and I hired a nutritionist, and he wants me to use all fresh herbs instead of spices. And so I bought an herb keeper to keep in the and I had just unboxed it, and my daughter's like, "Oh, this is cool," and then she drops it on the floor and smashes it, and I'm like, "I just got that," and I didn't berate or belittle, but I did go silent, and silence is a form of attack. And she ends up running off to her room, and I'm like, I need to calm my emotions that I have 4 kids and they're young and they break things. And sometimes I just want to have some things that don't get broken. So I'm a
That's
human being too.
unreasonable.
I'm a human being too. And I want to have a couple of nice things,
Yes.
like an herb keeper when I'm trying to change the way I eat. And it took me probably 5 minutes, like maybe 6 minutes. I don't know. It was a good amount of time. And then I went up to a room and I sat down, I put my arm around her and I said the exact same words. I said, "You're more important to me than any object."
Mm.
And I said, "I'm sorry that I was frustrated." And she said, "I'm sorry that I broke your thing." And I'm
Mm.
like, "You are loved and it's totally okay." And I said, "Would you come down with me and help me finish dinner?" And she said, "Of course." And so we came down together. Now, we can't I can't be inauthentic. So as I'm feeling disappointment that my new thing is broken, I'm not going to just put on a happy face and if I don't feel it, so it's complicated territory being a parent.
It really is.
But I always can be a good second parent, right? I can always see the thing and then go and make it right. And I think the best thing a parent can do is just apologize and be vulnerable.
I so agree. And I think what I've learned with my own parenting mistakes is that just telling the truth. You know, my son, I'll tell you a funny thing. When he was really young, like, I don't know, maybe he was 6. So I have 4 kids, 3 of them are boys, and they were running around like wild beasts. And I always let them do that. It didn't bother me. But this one day I was yelling, and I wasn't really a yelling mom, but I was yelling at them.
Yeah.
And Luke said, "Hey, mom, listen, I know it's okay. I know you're not really yelling at us. I know you're yelling at yourself." And
Oh,
I said, Luke, you're 100% right. I
what a
am
sweet
yelling at
boy.
myself. And it's just what you said. We're yelling at ourselves or we're berating ourselves because when they do something, it's like a reflection. Oh, I'm not a good mother, or, how am I failing? Or, right. So that's such a beautiful story, Matt. Tell us
What
the
a
third one.
what a
What?
great son. You've got an amazing like what an old soul. How cool.
Yes. Yes, he is.
So the third one is hopelessness. And this will show up as overwhelm, or I just feel lethargic or apathetic towards life. And this emotion is really powerful for me. I'll take on so much and think I can do it all. And this is like the type A personality that can't delegate and can't give things away. And then I'll feel completely overwhelmed by it. And it's this repeating pattern. And hopelessness is just a really negative place. The way out of that one is to ask for help. But typically, when we are feeling this emotion, we think we can't ask for help
You're
and that
killing
no
me.
one can help us.
You're killing me right now. Everything you're saying, I feel like you're me. I'm like, are you me? Like, what's happening? Okay, wait. So it's hopelessness. Yes.
Yes.
So when you take on too much and you feel overwhelmed, that's me.
Mhm.
Then when it just feels too big for you, that feels like hopelessness, like I can't get anything
I can't do it, and
done
there's no one else that can be here to help me with it.
and I
It's
feel
just,
alone.
yeah.
Do you think that's from our childhood, from I know me being neglected? I think it is.
Sure. Yeah. And so when my dad abandoned us and I was 5 and my brother was 3 and my mom was a secretary and there was 4 of us and there wasn't enough money to go around, and my mom's crying in the closet, and that I felt a tremendous amount of responsibility as a young boy to
Yeah.
take care of her, which was a hopeless job.
Yes, it's a hopeless job. Yes, were you the oldest?
It's interesting. My brother and sister are 10 and 13 years older than me. So they were moving out of the house
Yes.
as I as my as and so I'm like the oldest of the next of my little brother and I, and they were
Yes.
gone, and I was like a second oldest child.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's cool. This is
And
really
and
profound,
then
by the
and
way.
then you take on like all of this, and you're like, I need to grow up and be responsible and take care of things and be the man of the house is kind of who I was. Um and so then we keep repeating it. Well, here's what's cool is that we don't have to, all of us are going to experience all of these 8 negative emotions, and they don't go away. They keep showing up. But we just, once we learn about them, we're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm overwhelmed. The way out of this is to recognize that I can ask for help and that people will help me, or that I don't have to do all of this. That some of these things that I think I have to do don't even need to be done at all. And it's just stopping and admitting the truth. I need help and someone can help me.
I
And
love that.
I'll like stop and I'll get there. I'll be like, I'll have all these things. Like my day's so stacked with all these things. And my wife is stacked with all these things, because we've got, and I'll be like, oh, could you help with this thing? She's like, no, I've got this other thing. And I'm like, and I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. This isn't overwhelming. Some of these things maybe don't need to be done today.
Yes.
So looking at all of them, what could I just not do? And
Yeah.
our brain will say you have to do them all. I say our brain lies to us all the time because it does. And so sometimes it's just scratching things out and saying, we're not going to do that, and we're not going to do that, and we're not going to do that. Sometimes it's, my daughter's not going to go to practice today.
Yes. I
And
agree.
we think, well, she can't miss a practice. Well, maybe that's the best thing for the family today, is for her not to go to practice. Or maybe it's, I know that our neighbor drove her to practice twice last week, and we probably need to drive this week, but just saying, could you help us this time? and
Yeah.
we'll be there for you. But could you help us? And a lot of times people say, sure. Now, we don't want to take advantage of people I know, but it's the same time, like I'm not a take advantage kind of guy. So I will make it right at some point. But today I need help.
It's really, this is such practical help. And I think to identify it as hopelessness is so interesting to me because the overwhelm, I don't know if I've ever connected that emotion with that. I've connected like fear, anxiety, like whatever, people pleasing kind of behavior, but it is true because, and this is why we're talking today, because I have been overwhelmed. And then the way God has kind of set it up is that there's no one behind me. I have tons of people who work with me, work for me, who will do anything for me. They're so good to me. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm all alone in this world. I am
Uh,
alone. No one cares.
Such a lie. It's
It's
such
such
it's
a
such
lie.
a it's such
Yes.
a lie that we all believe.
Yes. It's true,
And
right? Yeah.
and yeah, and so it's just a normal human emotion, and we all feel it and we all fall for it. And the way out is just to notice the truth. And the truth is that I am supported by so many people, and you are supported by so many people, and we are allowed to ask for more support.
I want to just give a shameless plug of my book. I would really want people to have a good look at my book and to understand what it really is. I used to be ashamed to plug my book. And then I realized, how is that right to keep the information, the 30 years of experience that I have, the 8 years of education, the trauma that I grew out of and learned how to manage and how to manage emotion, all the training I've had in neuroscience and quantum physics. How can I keep that from the public? So it's not, I used to think it was like something I should, be humble about, but being humble is silly when you're keeping things away from people that they need. So what I want to tell you about my book, and I hope that you do get it because I think it will really help you. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback about my book and that it's really, really of great value to a lot of people. And what it is, it's an interactive read, and there's inside of it, there's journal entries. So as I'm teaching and going through the book and teaching you how to create the life you want by understanding how you're wired, how your thoughts, feelings, how your words, how thoughts are things, and the neuroscience behind it, and how we are programmed from the time we're 0 to 7 years old to live a life of mediocrity or a life of poor design because of meaning that we attached to events when we were children that just became our programming. What I want to tell you is that there is a way out, and it's a simple way. It's very simple. I believe in the simplicity and the grace in healing, and that it doesn't have to be a big work. So I would love it if you'd get my book. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's my first. And I encourage you to get it. It's called The Wake Up Call, an interactive read for building the life you want. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get back to it.
The next emotion is a really positive one because it's each emotion progresses. I call it the progression of moods. So we're progressing from the lowest, most destructive to the next one, to the next one. They keep getting better. It's
Ask
sadness.
you a question. So
Yeah.
do you mean that we're progressing? Do you mean that at that first one, I'm not enough? Do you mean
Mhm.
that it builds to the next one and they add to one another? Or, well, I'm curious.
No, we can live in the state of consciousness of I'm not enough. And that's the lowest consciousness to live
Yeah.
in. Living in a state of consciousness of overwhelm is way better, light years better
Oh,
than I'm not enough. And
I
think
see
about
what
it.
you're saying.
You're
It's a better
managing so many,
emotion.
you're managing
Yeah,
so many different things. You just
I
kind
got
of
it.
feel overwhelmed by it. But that's way better than feeling like I'm not enough and I'm
Yes.
worthless.
Yeah, I didn't know what you
Um,
meant. That makes sense. Hmm.
so we want to move to and when we're stuck in one consciousness, the one right above us is accessible. So the one right above hopelessness is sadness. And that's accessible. And so sometimes when we're feeling hopelessness, the best thing we can do is just cry about it. Is to just say, I'm overwhelmed and I'm going to feel super sad that I have so much on my plate. And because what's beautiful is sadness. When we feel really sad, we ask for help. When we're feeling really, really in a lot of grief, we're like, I need you. I am so overwhelmed. I'm so sad about all of it. I just need help. And that's why sadness is the place to go. And it's not negative to cry. It's really positive. It's positive to say, I can't do all of this because we literally have taken on more than we were capable of doing. We
This
took
is
it on. No
hysterical.
one put it on us. We chose it. And now we need help to unchoose it and then to make healthier choices.
This is so good. If you knew this is so weird. I feel like, all right, God, this is ridiculous because it's like I have gone through then I was like overwhelmed and then sad. I'm like,
Mm.
I just want to cry. And you're like speaking my life right now, which is
Yeah, and
so,
it's really positive. It's really, really positive. So each time we step into the next level of
yeah,
consciousness, that's a really good thing. And once we learn these 8 progressions of the negative, we get into the 8 progressions of the positive, and life gets
yeah,
so beautiful and so fun and it's so inspiring, and we're just
yeah.
like on fire all the time. But
Okay.
when you find yourself overwhelmed, say, my next move up is to cry. And
Wow.
that's good. And that's good. But we don't want to stay sad, right? And we know those people that kind of live
Yeah.
sad. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to live there, and you don't want to live there. You're a total badass. You're making the world a better place. You're not going to live there.
Yeah,
You'd
no.
rather live overwhelmed than you would sad,
Yeah.
but
True.
neither place is good. The next is fear. And fear is a step up from all of these. It's still not where we want to be. But when we're afraid, we're like, we got a lot of energy. We're like, I'm kind of afraid maybe my children won't have the right life, or I don't provide enough money, or maybe things won't work out. That's good because when we're afraid of these things, we have energy to go start to do something about it. I'm like, I'm going to go, I'll shore this up. I'll shore that up. I'll shore this up. Eventually, though, we want to move into a really positive negative emotion, which is desire. And it's when we get to this step, and some people, they live their whole life just to get to desire. And desire is so positive. Desire is like in all the rap songs when they talk about how they have all this money, or models that are portraying their body out there are like feeling desirable. In our society, that this can look like a positive thing, and it is. Coming from the lower emotions, we look up to people who are feeling desirable, or desiring more, or desiring money, or desiring a better life. This is so positive. We're like, okay, I desire a life that's not overwhelming. I desire a life that's not sad. Once we desire these things, we can start to create it, but it's still a negative emotion because as we want, we're not experiencing it. We're wanting it,
Lack.
and it lack. It's total lack. But it's good. It's a very interesting emotion because it's good to want more, but it's bad to stay there in lack because there's never enough. And we can have the greatest life ever. We can have all the money we ever needed. We can have the perfect family, the perfect house, the perfect car, and still say it's not enough. And what's wrong? How come I'm not satisfied or fulfilled when I have everything that I could possibly want? Why don't I feel fulfilled? And it's because we've been living in lack.
Hmm. Yes. This is amazing. You know what I love about this is that I think when we have something tangible to explain what's going on, I think that gives us hope. This is incredible work that you're doing.
Totally.
Tell us the
I couldn't
next
agree. I
one.
couldn't agree more.
Yes.
It is like once I discovered this progression of moods, everything became easy.
Wow. Love it.
It's like and you'll look at other people once you see it, and you'll be like, oh, you're stuck in that consciousness, and there's a way out. You don't have to be there.
Yes.
So the next emotion when we is anger, and anger is so positive. They get more and more positive as we go up. Anger it says, I don't like the way things are, and I've got so much energy, I'm going to change it.
Love it.
So in desire, we lack it. I'll see some entrepreneurs live in anger, and they'll achieve a lot with anger and frustration. Again, kind of negative way to be. When you're angry and frustrated, but getting shit done.
Yeah.
Sorry about my language there.
No, I
But
don't care. It's okay.
you're getting it all done, but you're kind of frustrated as you're getting it all done. As a parent, I'll do this sometimes. I'll get the kids to school, but I'm kind of in a frustrated energy because we're late and all this stuff. You get a lot of stuff done, but it doesn't feel good.
No.
So anger can be positive when we direct it at ourselves and we say, I'm kind of angry that I've been being this way. How could I grow? How could I grow beyond all this negativity? The next step beyond anger is to be really prideful. It's we've accomplished all this stuff and we start to say, I'm pretty proud of it. I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. And pride is the pinnacle of the negative emotions. It's like what all of us aspire to be, this person that other people are proud of and that we're proud of. But it's still a negative emotion because we're comparing ourselves to others. It's, I'm better than everyone else at this point. I've accomplished more than they've accomplished. I'm living in the nicer house, or I have my family's better behaved. It's like, this is good. This is really, really, really positive. It's way better to be proud of ourselves and who we are and what we've done than to be wallowing in overwhelm
Right.
or to be wallowing in grief or to be angry. It's better. It's just not where we want to land. So each step of the progression is positive. And you'll see like our society really hoists up people in pride. We
Yeah.
just selected the most prideful person I've ever seen as president of the United States. We hoist them up. Like this is a very prideful, I'm better than everyone else type of a attitude. Our sports stars, a lot of them live in this energy. The Kardashians definitely live in this energy. It's like you got to keep up with us because who could keep up with us? This is, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, I want to be them. I want to be this really prideful energy. Well, you don't. Actually,
Right.
it's a super suffering place. If you could get into the mind of these people, you'll find that they're not really happy.
Mm.
And watch some of the documentaries. I watched the Michael Jordan
Oh,
documentary.
yeah. Wow.
He achieved so much, 6 championships, and there wasn't a happiness or a joy there, right? Look at Bill Belichick and Tom Brady winning 6 championships. And again, it's like there's so much pride and like I don't know Tom Brady personally, but as his whole relationship life is unraveling before us, we're like a joyful person maybe would have won fewer championships, but may have had more joy.
Yeah.
What's the real win? Is
Yeah.
the championship actually the goal, or is living a life that you feel happy in the goal?
Yeah.
For me, the championship is less important than the happiness of my family.
Yeah.
So I may not win as many championships. And then the prideful person would say, I don't want that. I want the championships. Eventually we get done with all of it.
Yeah.
And now we move into positive emotions. And so I'll stop there, but that's the progression of the negative emotions.
What should someone do if they're in that prideful place, though?
You can't see it.
Oh,
That's the difficult part. So pride is in you cannot see your own flaws and you don't think anything's wrong. You actually think you're perfect. So
mm.
I lived in pride for years and I thought I was awesome. And I thought everything I did was right.
Yeah.
And you need someone to show you your flaws and then finally have enough of the first positive emotion, humility, to do something about it. I hired a coach and I was having a counseling session with him. And at this time, I was making more money than I ever thought I would make. I had 2 beautiful children, a beautiful wife, great house, like everything that I had ever wanted. And I thought I was awesome. And I thought there was no one as good as me, right? This is pride. And my coach asked my wife to come to a session with us. And she's sitting on the couch next to me. And the whole session, he just asked her questions. And he said, Katie, how do you experience Matt? And I'm like, oh, she's going to tell me how great I am. And uh, she said, sometimes I feel like I'm walking around in eggshells, that if I say the wrong thing, that he'll just blow up, that he's so stressed about everything going on with the businesses that I just need to make sure I stay out of his way. Now, in my pride, she was saying these things to me and I was dismissing it. Right? She may have said, hey, that wasn't a kind way to speak with me. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand what I'm dealing with today. I'm dealing with this problem and this problem, and this problem. And I just couldn't see. It's like a blind spot, huge blind spot. My marriage is about to fall apart. Or years later, who knows how many years she would have dealt with it because she loved me. before it fell apart and we had a loveless marriage. And then they say pride comes before the fall
Yeah.
because you can't see your blind spot, but it's huge and everyone else can see it and it's glaring, and eventually people get fed up with it and you fall.
Yes.
And so I was on my way, and thankfully, by the grace of God, a coach brought my wife in, and I heard the thing I needed to hear, which
Love.
was I wasn't as great as I thought I was.
Yes. Which makes a person great.
Then there's vulnerability and authenticity.
Yes. And then there's connection.
But pride, the reason we won't admit our flaws is because we're insecure.
Yeah.
We still are negative. We're still insecure, and we're trying to portray that we're perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And no one can tell us we're not perfect because we're insecure that we are imperfect. And so it takes a tremendous amount of humility, which is the first positive mood, to say, I have imperfections. I am human. I'm not infallible. And will you love me anyway, even though I'm not perfect? And what the ironic thing is that they love us more.
So much more. You know, I'll tell you something. One of the biggest life-changing experiences for me sounds subtle, but it was when I decided that I was great with being wrong. Like, I'm good with it. That, if someone tells me something that I've done wrong or any of it, that like I accept it and I listen. It really changed my life. It just internally, to not be so afraid of being wrong, to just understand that it's definitely going to happen, and I also took the words out of my vocabulary of right and wrong, never used them. Like
I
in
love
the
it.
context of a relationship or anything,
Yeah.
you're right, I'm wrong. The whole thing's ridiculous to even use. But, there's so much. What would you
Well,
say to, oh, go ahead. I want to hear.
I just want to comment on that.
Yes.
You said it was a simple thing. It was not a
Mm.
simple thing what you did. You shifted out of negativity and into positivity. It's a huge leap that you took when you said, I'm okay being wrong
Mm.
and I'll embrace that I'm wrong sometimes. It's not a small leap. It is a massive leap. And it is truly the leap from negativity to positivity. What you did is to say, I'm not always right. Sometimes I make mistakes and I'm lovable anyway.
Yeah.
And this is total humility. And humility is just doing that, is saying I'm not always right and I don't have to always be right. And sometimes people can be right. And sometimes I can be wrong. And it doesn't mean that I'm less valuable. In fact, I am more valuable than I was because I can see that I'm vulnerable and that I just like everyone else has some flaws. It's massive. So according to Dr. David Hawkins, only 22% of the world has the ability to do that. 78% of the world does not. And you'll notice this. You'll notice people you work with that own their mistakes, and you'll notice people you work with that you try to hold them accountable, and they like tell you all the reasons that it's somebody else's fault.
I'll tell you, that's one of our core values, is that we take ownership, and like it's the foundation for all our core values, at Lager Counseling Services. And it's become such a big part of the culture that everybody's so quick to say, yeah, no, I did that. No, and we like applaud it.
That's
So
awesome. It's
yeah,
awesome. So what you're doing is you're embracing a positive culture. So everything you're doing now is starting from the foundation of positivity. From this foundation of positivity, we can move into higher states of positivity. One of my favorites is gratitude.
yes,
We cannot be grateful, though, as we're prideful. Or we can't be grateful when we're feeling hopeless. We can't feel grateful when we're angry. I can't be angry at my child, like when she dropped the herb keeper,
yes,
and also be grateful at that same moment. In that moment, I was angry.
yes,
I had to step out of anger and then move into some higher stage, humility, a humble thing to say I've broken things. As a kid, I dropped. As an adult, I drop things, right? Like
Yes.
I break
Right.
things.
Yes.
I might have broken her toy at some point. Who
Yes.
knows?
Right.
And to be humble and say I make mistakes too, and then go to her and say you're more important, and I'm so grateful you're my daughter. And so gratitude is a state that we can only access from humility.
Do you think that when we're in any of those negative states, if we almost like by rote, because I try to do this by rote, say, I am grateful for,
Mhm.
maybe there isn't exactly, that's like a way of transitioning. I remember my daughter missed the bus once,
Mm.
more than once, but she missed the bus at this one time. I was so mad, like so mad, like ridiculous, like dumb mad, like it made no
Yeah.
sense,
Uh-huh.
reactionary. I want to ask you, right where we are, if there's any way, it doesn't matter when, if we could ever do a podcast and talk about how all of this stuff applies to business, because I have a lot of entrepreneurs who listen too.
Mm.
I would love
Yeah.
to.
Let's do that.
Can we do that? Would you consider
Yeah,
doing that again?
let's do an episode about how, because what happened is when I applied these emotions to my company, we
Yeah.
became the number one company to work for out of 470,000 in the state of South
Yes.
Carolina.
I saw that and I said it on your biography. Yes, that is amazing. So what we're going
We'll
to do is
talk
we're going
about
to talk about that
how to,
next.
yeah,
And
great.
our next.
Let's talk about your daughter
All
though,
right, let me tell
and
you
the
that.
anger. Yeah.
So I was so mad at that she missed the bus, and I was like, you know what? And I started to almost like cry, like I can even feel it now. Tears came to my eyes. I was like, you know what? Honestly, I am so great because I was trying to think, what am I grateful for in this moment? I'm so grateful. I could cry now. So grateful that I have a daughter that could miss the bus. I
Oh,
had three boys, and then I had a girl.
oh, my heart. I got tears in my eyes with you just saying that. Beautiful.
Thank God I have somebody, a little girl, to miss the freaking bus.
Yep.
And I was so happy,
So
like, yes,
that, yeah. Tony Robbins. I went to a
I'm
bunch of
going to
Tony
him
Robbins. What are you seeing?
tomorrow. I'm
What are
going
you
to
seeing?
Florida, date with Destiny.
Oh, have you been to Date with
No,
Destiny? Have you been to any of his events?
I just was at UPW, first time.
Yeah, Date with Destiny. I went with my wife, and it was life changing.
I'm bringing that
Like,
daughter.
you two are going to. You is going to be so good. Well, so
Listen,
Tony
I feel like
said,
we are fast friends.
"I know we
So
are."
let me ask this part because we have to
Yeah.
wrap up. And but we people were going to have a second podcast on how all of these amazing principles apply to success and business and all of that in life. What I would love to find out from you, Matt, is where people can find you. I also want to showcase your book. You have one book, right? Don't you have two?
No, so my book is Good Mood Revolution: Igniting the Power of Conscious Happiness. And it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And it's how to progress this progression of moves we've been talking about so that we can live a life of conscious happiness. I just wanted to talk about how you used gratitude real quick.
Yes.
And it was because Tony said you cannot always go from a negative mood to a positive one, but you can always go from a negative one to a grateful one. And once you get to a grateful mood, then you can access positivity. So, exactly what you did, that you were in an angry state and you said, what am I grateful for? And your heart opened up. And from that state, every positive emotion was accessible to you. So, it was perfect. It's a perfect thing to do.
And you know what? I'm going to say like this big mic drop one that people know about me, but I lost my husband 3.5 years ago, tragically. He died by suicide
Oh,
and tragic. And I remember this clarifies this a little bit for me, but I remember like about day 3, I've said this so many times, I felt desperate. And I said, no matter what, I have to find a way to gain more than I've lost. If it takes me the rest of my life, I have to do that. And I kept a journal next to my bed and I would just write all the gains. So what am I grateful for? I'm closer to my children because of it. I'm, whatever the things are, and just to find the good in it because there's enough darkness. You can always find that. And then you're
What
just pull more
what
to you.
what you did is extraordinary, like absolutely extraordinary. And it is the highest choice you could have possibly made in such a dark circumstance. But it's so true. It was your future was allowed to be bigger and brighter and better than your past. And you came and within just 3 days, you came to a conclusion that I'm accepting where I am and I'm envisioning something even better than what's already been.
Yeah.
So powerful. And look at you. You've done it.
It's, and sometimes, and I really do believe that all the things are supposed to be working out for good somehow, even though but that's like a foundational principle, I could talk to you for the next 80 days. I have so much.
It's a truth, though. It's an absolute truth what you just said. Every single thing is happening in the most loving way possible, even the things that we think aren't. And you already are an example of that. You've become closer with your children.
People get mad for it.
But it's true, though.
To be upset all the time about it.
No way.
I don't.
Way.
Yeah.
Not me.
I mean, I don't agree. I know.
Yeah.
So listen, guys, I just want to thank you so much, Matt, for being here. You have really helped me more than you know, because I needed to talk to you today. So I'm grateful for you. And I'm hoping I want to put together some really like longer time that we could just spend sharing with people. And
and we'll relate it to business. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so proud of you.
It's such a pleasure. That's a wrap. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. I just want to say to you that we are all together a part of the Mission Awake, a mission that's going to stop the mediocrity that's plaguing all of us. So if you got something here today, I ask that you would be a part of this mission and you'd share it with whoever you can. Take a screenshot of the show and share it on your Instagram. If you are looking for me, you can find me on social media platform Instagram, Alison Answers, or Lager Counseling Services. And give us a review and subscribe if you could to YouTube, Alison Answers. That's where you're going to get a lot of content. I drop stuff every day, goofy stuff, all different kinds of stuff. 5-minute videos that just get you moving in your day. Have a great week. See you next time.